I'm calling to order a meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee on Tuesday, January 3rd, 2019 at, I believe it's like 7:05 p.m. in City Hall Room 208. In the roll, Alderman at Large O'Brien, Alderman Dowd,
Present.
Commissioner Plant,
Present.
Commissioner Moriarty, absent, Commissioner Rosenblum, Mr. Garino from the Board of Ed,
Here.
Ms. Kleiner from the Mayor's Office, Commissioner Garant, and Mr. Pinsino or another representative from the library, and I have not heard from them. So we do have a quorum. We also have with us Director Marchant from Community Development and Alderman Wilshire, President of the Board of Aldermen. So we have some new members, and well, first of all, public comment. None. We have some new members on this committee, and in an attempt to kind of summarize where we are and how we've been focused and how we've approached developing a strategic plan, I asked Director Marchant to come and do a condensed version of what she did when this committee first met. So the members would have a sense of what our focus is at this level versus the focus they and their individual boards or commissions may take once a strategic plan is developed. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Director Marchant.
All right, thank you. I don't have too many slides here, I promise. But we'll go through quickly.
You're ahead already.
Yeah, there you go. So just for a quick overview of those who haven't been here before, which is not very many of you actually in the room, but this is the committee composition. These are the many boards and commissions who are represented here. Thank you. And so the purpose of this group is to create a strategic plan to send to the Board of Aldermen for approval once every term, so once every 2-year term. And then for the mayor to work with the committee to implement the policies through an operating plan. And so that is the general charge of this committee. And so with that, we started with the vision and mission that is as part of our ordinances today. And I just wanted to make sure we all saw them again before we went back down this road. But this is the vision statement that the committee worked on recently, in the past cycle. I don't think I need to read it for you guys. If you want me to, I will. But this was a good effort by everybody to make sure that this was updated along with the mission statement, which is here. Again, I won't read it word for word for you. So, talking about those long-range plans, what we're here for, that are stated in the mission statement, and this is borrowed from the Center for Strategic Governance. It said we could borrow it. It did ask permission. I didn't just steal it from the internet. I have this here. This is kind of an overview of strategic planning. So it's strategic planning, strategic governance is the large umbrella over what we do. And if anybody wants a copy, I do have it here. But it's 2 parts. It's strategic thinking and then operational governance, right? It's deciding what's important, what are our core vision, mission, what are our goals, and then implementing things down to the daily tasks to make sure that we're actually bringing those goals to fruition, that vision to fruition. And so this is kind of the nice umbrella that we can keep kind of going back to and thinking about it when we're trying to finalize our strategic plan. And so, good overview. And just another way to look at it is you set a goal, the objectives underneath are clear, measured, and they lead to an outcome that is part of the vision. So for example, a previous goal was to protect our water supply and There are a whole bunch of objectives and steps in place that took a while to do that, but the city purchased Pennachuck as a protection of our water supply, and we are the sole shareholder. So the other part of strategic planning is that we're not looking at year-over-year things, but we're trying to have that longer vision over the long term to meet, we're trying to set long-term policy to meet that vision. And so some of the tools we use to do that are our capital improvements process, which is going on right now, which everybody's submitting their capital improvements items into. Our collective bargaining agreements are certainly part of our long-term planning process. Our debt and bond services, which the CFO and finance goes through pretty frequently and updates the boards on. And making sure that we have sufficient levels of reserves and have stabilized base, which the city worked very hard again and has an excellent bond rating. So we are keeping up with that side of it, thinking those long-term and making decisions based on the long-term goals. So as part of your handout, or what that came with the agenda, I didn't copy all the objectives onto the slides, I just copied the goals. And the idea was to walk through these goals and the objectives here. Maybe I should have put them in a different order, but I'm going to skip actually 2 slides real quick. Our goals are kind of to run through the goals and look at some of these objectives. I think we have some that aren't really that 25,000 foot level, that are maybe more focused on individual areas, not really divisions necessarily or departments. And so kind of making sure that we feel comfortable with these, and if we can get to a point, whether this meeting or another, that we feel comfortable with the goals and objectives, sending them to the full board for review, and then getting to the citizen input that we talked about a couple times in the past, getting to that public, some kind of a forum where citizens can give input back on a plan that's been put together, back to the full board for final review, and forward to the budgeting process. So that's coming fast and furious, and so we'd like to kind of move on some of these. So I'm going to go back up to the goals. The first one is the city shall promote a clear communication with residents and businesses. And there are some things in here that, there are many things that are excellent, like utilization of Channel 16, right? That's a broad, overarching part of how we can have our communications campaign that makes sense to meeting that goal. Some of them do get a little bit into the nitty-gritty, which maybe isn't as much a part of what we want in this. An example might be a video series on restaurant licensing. That isn't really part of a larger umbrella. So if we wanted to maybe run through some of these things, if you guys do.
Could we back up to this slide for strategic planning?
Yeah.
Please, thank you. I think it's real important, and we discussed this the last time, that as you kind of read that down, strategic thinking and operational governance, and we're doing the strategic thinking part, and the nitty-gritty stuff that divisions and departments and boards and commissions will be looking at really fall on the operational governance side. And so as we talked about this, what we should be developing here, our goals and objectives, are really that strategic thinking piece, and not getting into some of this other stuff that's more the role of the department, like, do the police want to have more bicycled officers downtown, or does the school board want to increase their adult education programming? Those sorts of things are down here, and we're looking up here at what's the umbrella, and what is it that we should all be working towards as a city. And then, as Sarah said, being aware of how that should then drive your budget. So looking at these broader goals and objectives, figuring out which ones you can address and which ones are priorities, and then using that to drive your budget. Which, as we've discussed in the past, means that someone's budget may go up 2% and someone's budget may go down 1%. It's, how are we doing this, and how is it all working together, driving towards meeting these goals? Yeah, oh, yes, Mr. Guarino.
Yeah, I know I came on this committee kind of late in the process, and I think you have a really great, you have a lot of nice, great goals and objectives. I just have, I guess, I would like to see something that says, something about the environment, to promote a clean environment and sustainability, probably under goal 4. I know this is kind of late in the game, but rather than say sustainability, it might be something like recycling, promote a clean environment and recycling where possible, something like that, because I don't really see that anywhere in here. So that would be my only, except for my other comment would be equity. That the city should promote equity. That throughout the city we should have sort of equal. Everyone should have equal opportunity towards resources, and so those are my only 2 comments regarding these goals and objectives for this board to take under consideration.
So by the way, there are 3 main upper-level tenets of strategic planning. And one is where we sort of started. Where do you want to get to? But in order to take the step on how to get there, you've got to know where we are right now. So on these plans, okay, where are we right now? Where do we want to go? And if we're already there, we don't need to address it. But then the downstream, as Mary Ann was talking about, was how do you get there? Okay, when you get to the how do you get there, it goes into smaller, different groups. If we're talking about something the police department has to do, it goes to the police department. We're gonna not tell them what they need to do. Same thing with the Board of Education, the Mayor's Office, the Board of Aldermen. The other thing that we need to look at is, at some point, is cost. And it may be a great thing we want to do, as Kim can tell you. We may not be able to do it tomorrow. We may have to put it off for a while because we have to watch the tax rate, and we have a lot of things on the table. I mean, a lot of things on the table, and we have to spread them out. But actually, the definition of strategic planning is a disciplined effort to produce fundamental decisions and actions that shape and guide what an organization or some other entity is, what it does, and why it does it. So we want to make sure when we review these steps, these things the city can do. It's outside the city's tenure, then we can't probably put it in our strategic plan. And there are some, I think, that have changed since the last time we met, so we'll have to review all of these and maybe tune them up.
Any other comments, Kim?
So I agree with Alderman Down. But, so I think back a few months ago, you had us pull all those goals and objectives from the beginning of the budget book. The mayor and CFO Griffin, our finance team, we've been looking at that again. And what we issued about a month ago was kind of an overall process that we're asking the divisions to take a look at and do when they develop their budgets, and I'm happy to share it with the board. We're asking them to really, this time, think about it and put together their objectives and drive their budget down from those objectives. And then at the same time, create some documents that we can put forward to the budget committee on what the changes in the budgets are, you know, what their change year over year is, and what's driving those changes, so that we can just take those documents and give them right to you, because we know that's what you've been focusing on, more of the changes versus the nitty-gritty of the numbers. But how we're asking them to prepare their objectives is a little bit more detailed and a little bit more forethought than we've asked in the past, kind of refining that process from the first time we did it. And I think it would be great if we could then say, well, these are the objectives, which obviously when the directors compare their objectives, they're looking at what the mayor has asked them to focus on. So, I mean, ultimately it all comes down from above, but how that relates to what the aldermen see as their overall strategic objectives, I think will be important.
Well, and I think it's really important that at some point the mayor and the Board of Aldermen come together on this, so the message is more dovetailed together than this is what the mayor thinks is a priority and this is what the Board of Aldermen think is a priority, which is why I think it's great you're on this committee, so we have that communication, because at the end of the day, it's one city and we should have common priorities in moving forward, I would hope.
I almost wonder at this level if the objectives are really that important. If the strategic planning committee could lay out some quality goals that you felt comfortable with, I really think that that is the meat of what you're trying to do, right? That's setting that backbone of that overlying umbrella, and then letting all your boards and commissions do what you do to set the outcome, the objectives, those outcomes, right? And then to line up all the items underneath it.
So you're looking for more general terms for the objectives in general?
Or the goals.
For the goal, but for the
For the
goals
goals.
should be the very high arching goals,
Right.
right?
Right, and then underneath, the objectives are fairly, not that specific either, but.
Well, that's the idea, I think.
And they probably
Just to-
shouldn't be.
Right.
They really, really shouldn't
Right.
be, even
Right.
at this
Right.
level. So that's why it's hard to create objectives, but from this group creating the objectives.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems like we're going back and forth. We go up, and then we go down, and
Yeah.
then we go back
So-
up. And
Right.
So my suggestion is, the goals at some point, when we finalize them, would be given to whoever has the responsibility in that area. We can give them the objectives as thoughts from this committee, but the ultimate solution will be, you know, if we're talking about a cleaner city, you know, it's BPW, and, you know, we don't wanna tell them to use orange trash cans.
Right.
They can decide
Right.
whatever they wanna do.
Right, so
Clean
there,
city.
maybe it's the terminology that they're gonna come up with more actions, more specific actions. And we're gonna be more in general terms, whether you call them goals or objectives. What we're looking for is the guidance, the general guidance.
Yep.
And as far as specifics, they're gonna have the specific actions. So I think it's like the
Exactly.
terminology. I'm used to having goals as being very general, and then objectives a little bit more specific, measurable, and then actions as specific actions to reach your
Right.
your objectives.
Right.
And
And
then,
I guess and Sarah and I have talked about this too, and some of these, as everyone has indicated, some of these objectives are really nitty-gritty and they're at the division level. But I'm wondering if, even if we, to use your term, Mr. Guarino, just have the goals and maybe just have some guidance.
Right.
And not all of these objectives, but pull out a few key things like, you know, using social media, and this, whatever, and just streamlining processes, whatever. Just pull a couple of things out here so there's some guidance, so whoever gets this, whichever division head or commission or board gets this, they can say, okay, this is kind of the definition of what they were looking for.
Right.
And this is kind of the big end goal.
Mhm.
But
So-
it's gonna be tailored to
Right.
our
so
group.
working with this committee, at the goal level, we need to determine as a group who we think is responsible for that, and then let them take a stab at where are we today? Where do we want to get to, and what'll it take to get there? Now,
I
that's
don't know that that's this committee's responsibility.
I don't think so either.
not this committee.
Right,
No.
I'm talking about the divisions.
but this committee's responsibility is to set the goals, right? Is
Right.
to set the
Top line.
strategic
Right, right.
plan. Right.
What I'm saying is the step below that.
Yeah.
Yes,
We have to determine for
they
each
have
goal
to determine.
who we should give it to.
Yeah, right, we have to know whose goal that's gonna be.
Well,
it could be
They-
many
they could be
people.
overlapping.
Yeah,
Most
it
most
could-
of these
yeah.
goals
could be
really should
overlapping.
be many
Yeah.
divisions. It should be
could be.
many,
It could
many
be.
things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep,
Right.
could
So-
be.
So what we should do is take out the word objectives, just under goals, and just have these bullet points. For example, goal number 4, the city of Nashua will provide a healthy and safe community. I'd like to add promote a clean environment. That's very general. And so the departments will figure out a way to fill that in with their actions, their measurable actions, like, some kind of recycling program. I say recycling, it could be a specific one that they have compost, so someone may do composting, or someone may do recycling, it depends on the department and what they're handling. But let that specific
Yeah.
objective up to them, and take out the word objectives, and just have bullet points under the goals. The goals would be general, our general guidance.
Recycling is a lofty goal, but today there's nobody that wants it, so,
That's right.
I mean, there's no place to sell this stuff, so.
Right,
So maybe a word more like just sustainable.
sustainable,
Because then
yeah.
we're taking care of our environment and our resources.
Mhm.
I mean, it could be, don't go beyond this, and I'm not supporting this,
Mhm.
but it could be
You're on
like
tape.
legislation that bans plastic bags
Right,
in trash.
right,
That's Ernie's.
right. That,
Yeah,
yeah.
So,
It's up
I
there.
mean, but things like that,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
recycling is getting to be a very complex
Mhm.
issue.
Right, right.
And there are things that drive the cost up and
Mm-hmm.
screw up the process, but that's BPW.
Yeah. It could be like reuse, someone figures out a way to reuse something, or it doesn't have to be necessarily, recycling.
But for the purpose of the
material.
goal, you're talking about the environment.
Right, we're talking about
Right.
promoting sustainability. I didn't like to use the word sustainability, because believe it or not, some people think it's a dirty word, but
Okay.
it just means recycling, basically.
Yeah.
But
Sustain-
it means a lot,
Yeah,
it means
it
a
means a
lot
lot.
of things.
Yeah, it's a big umbrella of, reuse, recycling, sustainable
Better not be a
practices.
dirty word, we're using it big time in the new school project.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways, I would just take out, if it were up to me, but I would just take out the word objectives and have these bullet points under the goals, and the goals are general, broad general statements,
So,
and let the
yeah.
departments come up with their
And I think
specifics.
some of these are, even as they sit now, for objectives are too specific,
Yeah.
Mhm.
too
Yep.
lower level.
Yep.
I'm not sure who cleans the list.
Well, this is the list we ended up with the
Right.
last time, and so I think we need to go through and, just, even if there are things you think we should strike out, let's do that now, and then we can look at some guidance language under each goal.
Yeah. For instance, there was one bullet, objective, I think it was create a vibrant downtown. That's like, okay, let's create peace and harmony in the entire world, I mean, how do you do that? And who does it? I think that's probably too broad.
Mhm.
So those types of things should be taken out. There are things we can do to help in that process, and one of them is the Performing Arts Center, but that's already in there under another bullet, so.
So do we want to start with goal 1 and just start rolling
Good
through?
place to start.
Yes. So are we all comfortable with goal 1? We've
Yes.
Just the word
wordsmithed that,
of the goal.
yeah, a number of times, so, okay, so we're gonna keep that. So the objectives, are there things you would like to just remove?
Well, one thing, I haven't read through these right now, but one of the things that struck me was, you know, we have one that says Facebook, one that says, you know, YouTube, and one that says,
Yeah, it should just
let's
be on
generalize
one.
that into one and use social media,
Okay.
which, by the way, is the second sub-bullet.
So maybe just pull that second sub-bullet out.
Well, improving social media?
Yeah.
I was thinking,
That's
Where-
what he was gonna use. and
Yeah,
get
it's
rid
gonna
of the
use
others.
that.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
like pull
yeah.
it,
and get
Mhm.
rid of, you know,
yeah.
YouTube
YouTube and
and,
Facebook.
you know, Facebook and.
Mhm. Yeah, because it's kind of redundant, yeah.
So do you want to leave utilization of channel 16?
I would,
Yep, okay. But we can take out those things under there.
And
yeah, we don't need.
Facebook page would be under social media also.
Yeah,
New city software, well, what, that's just part of the communication to business owners, or?
Streamline permit, it's under streamline permitting. I mean, so that's too specific. I think you
Yeah.
just kind of take that
Yeah,
out
let's
entirely.
take those
Yeah.
things out. Whoever's responsible for streamlining the permitting process will determine how to do that.
well, and I
Is that
also
your
wonder,
responsibility?
I want, you know, when you look at the goal, it talks about communication with residents and businesses. So the first bullet is clear communication to get information to citizens. Do we just have clearly communicate information to businesses? So we split that up.
Or just add it at the end.
Yeah.
So.
I think, you know, the communication is what drives participation at town hall meetings. Division
Or maybe
news-
instead of town hall meetings, it should be city meetings and events, right?
Yeah.
To kind of bring it up a little bit
Yeah,
versus just the town halls.
Yeah.
Because
We
there's all kinds of public meetings here, ward meetings, there's all kinds of things that
Yeah.
you
try to
want
increase
to.
Yeah.
participation of citizens in city government, something like that.
mhm.
You know, the town meetings are run out of Jim's office and, you know, we certainly have public input at Board of Alderman meetings.
Yeah, well, I mean, all of our public hearings and all of the
There's so
plans
many
that we,
different plans and projects and boards and, I mean, we just, more citizen participation across the board,
Right.
so kind of
Mhm.
saying it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, so one of the examples of how we went to, one of the things we've done to do that is the City Academy. And
Mhm.
out of the City
Exactly.
Academy, we have gotten a number of citizens who have stepped forward and are now members on our boards and
Right.
commission.
Nice.
So that's one of
Right.
the goals.
right.
So when we give these goals to whatever group we feel is responsible for, we should be getting some feedback from them as to how they're gonna approach it. And at some point, it's going to be cost.
That's their budget
I-
presentation, right?
Yeah, I don't know if we get feedback, I mean, I think once this is adopted, and this is like the strategic plan for the city,
Yeah, you
I
prob-
think to Commissioner
yeah.
Plant's point, like, they get it, they figure out which of these they're gonna focus their efforts on, and that's where they're gonna put their resources.
Right, I guess that's good, yeah, we don't need to.
Because otherwise we will appear to be micromanaging.
Right.
Good point,
Yeah.
we don't wanna do that.
And you and I have been accused of that before.
So, can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
Completely a suggestion. I think once you've gotten your goals, certainly communicating them to the boards and commissions that oversee, you know, like the police commission and the
Mhm.
board of education. But what about a memo to the mayor, allowing the mayor to sit with his division directors and then give you feedback on where he feels they fit in his divisions and what goals and objectives he's asked his divisions to come back.
In other words,
What
have his
objectives.
directives and
Yes.
see who wants to
Be-
grab that
'Cause
balloon.
there's a part of me that's gonna, I hate saying this. You want the mayor to buy into these goals and work with his division directors,
Mhm.
you know, as the police commission's kind of autonomous, so.
Right.
So they're gonna work on their own, but you really want the mayor to be able to sit with his division directors and come up with a plan and then come back to you and say, well, these are what the division directors are gonna work on to obtain these goals.
I guess I agree with you. I think the mayor has, the mayor gets these, and like the police commission or the fire commission gets them, and the mayor says, okay, this is how I see priorities. The school superintendent will say, this is where I see my priorities fitting in with this, and this is what we're gonna work on. I think that's a conversation he has with the people who work for him, and he charts his course that way to address these, and it comes out in the budget process, but I don't think he necessarily has to come back and report to us. I think if the Board of Aldermen finally approve a document and say, this is our strategic planning goal, vision, whatever, Board of Ed will take it, and the Superintendent Mosley will sit down and say, clearly communicate with residents and businesses. What does that mean for the school department? Does it mean a lot or not much,
Right.
And I think that I would see you and the mayor having that conversation with all the division heads, and then using that and saying, okay, these are our priorities, this is how each of these dovetails with these goals, and so now we're gonna move forth with our budgets, and this is how we're gonna justify it, taking this and dovetailing it with what we see as priorities.
Right, and you should be able to see that correlation
In budget.
in the budget
Right.
objectives and
Right,
things that we
right,
lay out.
Right, so I guess I'm totally agreeing with you, but I wouldn't see him coming back and saying, this is what I'm thinking.
Right.
I would just see that being rolled out with the budget for each division.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that with those documents at the beginning
Right.
of each budget section, you'll be able to see more
Right.
clearly the correlation
Yeah.
between.
Yeah.
See, I have a question, because what you're talking about is budget planning for your budget, and we're talking about strategic plans, so I'm a little bit confused. So is this something that we want to fit in an existing budget, or, because I see capital improvements programs up there, which means it's outside the budget also. So this is a plan, this is a document for the future?
Somebody move.
This is,
Is this so someone in one of these departments can say, okay, this is not in our budget, but we need this. I'll give you a good example, okay? Under our infrastructure, what I see missing is improvements to our, now this is very specific unfortunately, but improvements to our traffic signals, equipment and signal coordination, okay? I think that's definitely needed in the city, and I think what's happening is they're given a budget and they're saying, well, we can't do anything because it's in our budget, but no one ever says, what can we do beyond the budget? How are we gonna plan for the future? Can we get it on the capital improvements program and maybe get, buy into some federal money and have a big project for the future? So I'm a little bit, I guess my question is, this is a strategic plan, a document for not just budget planning, but also for future, beyond that. Am I correct?
So again, one of the things is, where do we want to get to?
Right,
Another part of it is, how do we get there?
right.
And, maybe something you want to, the group that's responsible wants to get there in 2019.
Yeah,
And the city is not going to be able to do it till 2021, 2022
right.
because of, keeping the tax rate sane. So,
Yeah,
you know.
but you have a separate process where the departments do their budget planning. and this is different, because this is long-term, short-term strategic planning. So,
But-
so when we go to the departments, and they should have that understanding.
By the way, capital improvements and bonding is all part of the budget.
Right, okay, but I mean, because I see up there that this is going to be part of that, so it's gonna be part of the capital improvements program. So they can look, what I'm saying is that I hope that the communication to the departments is that this is a plan for the future. You can look to the future for some of this, even though it's not in the budget now,
Right,
you know?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
right.
So that last thing, facilitate communication between businesses, professional organizations, and educational programs. That's probably too detailed and ought to probably come out.
yep.
And Wi-Fi in the downtown, whoever's responsible for communication ought to make that determination, but
Yeah.
if you go downtown and turn your phone on, you'll find there's more Wi-Fi hookups than. It would have to
Okay.
work, it would have to work better than the one that's in.
Oh, no, do you have it here?
No, that's okay, I'm sure I got another one. Thank you.
Did you
I
get
don't-
one?
I don't have my giant bag with me, so no. It's in my office. Thank you. Yes.
I'm hoping
I can
there are
forget
some
one.
available pens in the department.
I have a whole bunch over there.
Who needs a pen?
No, I'm good now, thank
Okay.
you. This one at the end of its life.
Um,
So again, I really think if we focus on the goals
Yep.
today
Yep.
and not necessarily these bullets
Objectives,
underneath,
yeah.
that
Okay.
we're gonna get a much more solid base to send out.
Yeah. So, look at goal number 2, a safe, well-maintained infrastructure and utility system that is coordinated with existing needs and with plans for future growth.
I think that
What
sounds good.
exactly does that mean?
Yeah.
What exactly does this mean? Does it mean, I don't know. I'm
Means a
not-
lot of things.
Yeah,
Right,
so-
right.
Yeah.
It means a lot
Infrastructure
of
is
things.
streets, buildings,
Right?
uh,
Pipes,
pipes.
Like
Yeah.
sewer systems, everything, yeah.
But it's
Power
Roads,
lines.
Utilities.
roads, everything.
utility system that is coordinated with existing, I'm not sure what that part means.
Coordinated.
Could mean
Formatting's a
100
little
things.
funny too,
It's-
yeah.
Yeah.
The wording's a little funny,
The formatting too,
Good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Formatting, no big deal.
It's coordinated with existing needs and, okay,
And it
so-
should be
This-
in plans, at a minimum, plans for future growth. So it's working with our current needs, but also looking towards the future.
Maybe meets current.
So that gets back to
Yeah.
the, where do we wanna go? Where are we now, and how do we wanna get there? So, if we have something lacking today, or something that we think we anticipate in 2025, something we wanna get to, and that's gonna be up to somebody else to say, how the hell do we get there?
I mean, I would just say that meets existing needs instead of coordinated, but
Mhm.
a safe, maintained infrastructure that meets existing needs and
Will accommodate.
plans for, accommodates future growth.
Yeah, that's probably good.
That makes a little bit more sense, doesn't it?
Hmm?
That makes a little bit more
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And I think, when you look at all of the objectives under there,
Mm-hmm.
again, we can go through and say, that's community development, that's DPW. I mean, it's all stuff that they would be looking at. So again, what does this mean for my department or division?
As a personal pet peeve, I'd like to see the traffic signals coordinated, because I sit there on Daniel Webster Highway and wait for, watch a green light coming out of one of the
Graham.
dealers,
yeah.
and it's green, and there's no cars coming out of there.
Presumably, I use that word presumably, BPW has control over all the lights in the city.
Yeah,
So if you don't like the way they're operating,
yeah.
I've
I'm
sent,
not gonna give you a name on who to call. but-
I've sent requests, and it's the same thing on East
Yeah.
Dunstable at Lund.
Yeah,
No cars there, it turns green, so you
Yeah.
sit there, and then it turns green out over the other way, and it's just silly.
yeah. There's a lot of intersections on Daniel Webster Highway that are like that, and there's a lot of red light runners, especially in the morning, because they just get sick of it, and they run through the
Right.
red light, because there's nobody coming, so they just go.
Yep.
So what happened to the smart lights we used to have with the loops?
Those are, I think, the only program that, and this was before my time, but my understanding is we had the CMAC funding to coordinate all those lights, and that was only for Amherst Street. So all that money, that was only an Amherst Street project, and so they coordinated those, to the best of my understanding.
Not perfectly, but.
No, not
What happens over time is they break down, and then they go out and they fix them, but they don't fix them the way they were, and they change.
Settings and they
I-
don't.
They change the.
they
I
don't
can tell you
coordinate
timing
well.
of
that they have made changes to those lights when people were complaining about them, so, you know, it's like anything else, getting them to be perfect is probably an impossible goal, getting them to be 95% efficient is probably easier.
More realistic.
They might have to
yeah.
update the controllers, the latest equipment, so
I
they
can
can.
tell you for a fact that they are putting in the new lines in the road, because they've been digging at every
Yeah.
intersection. So next year, when we put the final pavement over, they'll all be buried.
Right. So goal number 3, Nashua will continually improve the quality of lifelong education for all citizens so they are well prepared for life and careers in the 21st century. Sounds a little wordy.
You know, well, it could be, it's a good thought.
It's nice
It'll
high
probably
level
be a
at
lot
least.
more
Yeah.
succinct.
We could just chop off after citizens.
Mm,
Mhm.
First clause
Yeah.
only.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, I think we can just get rid of all those objectives that are under there.
Yep.
The city of Nashua will provide a healthy and safe community.
For all, because maybe we can say something about equity.
Healthy, safe, and equitable community.
Yeah, it's not, yeah.
What's an equitable community?
Well, it's like, you don't want, like, any part of the city not to receive any benefits, and sometimes some city parts get neglected, and sometimes some sections of the city, they just dump the worst things down that end either, so you don't wanna,
I think when we put this together, it was a combination of providing adequate and
equitable.
police support, and also we tied in, we combined a couple of objectives. This was also a public health
Right.
Yeah.
issue. So it's public health and public safety, and we wanted to keep it as general as possible. The more specific you try to get, the more convoluted it
Right.
gets.
But I
Mr.
think
Garino?
equitable is very
Yeah,
general.
I just asked Director Marchant to go back. What if we say Nashua is a proud, vibrant, and welcoming community? Nashua offers its people, and then somehow equitable opportunities.
Equal opportunity,
Or
yeah.
equal opportunities for personal growth. If we work it
Yeah.
and put it in there in the vision statement, I think that captures it, because I really think for each of these goals,
Mhm.
we're talking about equity.
Sure, yep.
So if we wordsmith that a little.
So we
Yeah,
had people
that sounds
equal
good.
opportunities.
Mhm. And then, and maybe again, continuously examining its processes to enable efficient and equitable delivery of services that enrich, so we could, like,
Mhm.
talk about it in both places, or and just,
Yep,
we'll play around with that?
yeah, sounds good.
Does that work for everyone?
Sounds good.
I just think that might be a bigger umbrella than trying to work it into one of these objectives, because I think it should apply to all of
Mhm.
them
Right.
at the
Sure.
department and division level.
So, goal 5.
So we're gonna leave 4.
We'll leave 4, just healthy
Oh,
and safe
yeah.
community, yep.
Yeah. So, goal 5 sounds like it's,
Are we scratching the objectives on the goal 4?
it's not that we're scratching, I think we give them to whoever's gonna be responsible.
Right, yeah, I just didn't wanna
Yeah.
go past it without
Addressing
Not
that.
gonna throw
scratching it
away.
out if we can.
Yeah, and I would say, my feeling is in goal 4, the whole thing of coordination of city departments and community agencies is probably one of the bigger places where this occurs. It's health and safety, and I think education. I think that's where we see city and community really coming together to meet objectives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the other group that we fell under this particular one was Justin Kate's area.
Right.
Right. Mhm. Yep.
Isn't goal 5 an objective of the Board of Aldermen and Mayor?
I think if you took off that end piece, if you were just talking about effectively managing resources, I don't know if this is, maybe I'm taking it somewhere else, but not necessarily to ensure citizens receive great value for their tax.
Yeah.
Because then you could be talking about environmental resources, you
Mhm.
could be talking about financial
Mhm.
resources,
Right.
you could be talking about.
Our hydroelectric dams.
Yeah.
Solar panels.
Yeah.
Where did you wanna cut that? Chicken.
After
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 resources.
resources.
Okay.
Number 6, the city of Nashua will make the city a regional center for arts, culture, and recreation.
Yeah, when I read that, I said, I think we need to reword that. We can't force
Right.
Nashua to be a cultural center. We can do things that would help promote that, but we can't force
Make it. So we just say promote instead?
Will
Can we
be,
just replace it with promote?
the city of Nashua will be a
We'll
regional
promote-
center?
We'll promote,
Or
arts.
strive
I
to,
told you.
Or
Yeah.
support efforts.
strive to be a
Sure.
regional center.
Strive.
That's about all you can do. You can't force anything. You could put every cultural thing in the world downtown, nobody comes. It's.
So you're just taking out make and changing it to strive to be?
we'll
Yes.
promote the city as a regional center for arts.
I think, strive to be, doesn't, I know it just doesn't sound like the right word there.
Okay.
It's like we're trying to reach our goal, which is
No.
trying to reach our goal. We're striving to do
Yeah,
what
yeah,
we're,
yeah, yeah. I get it.
I like the word promote. I mean, the city of
Yeah.
Nashua will promote the city as a regional center for arts, culture, and recreation. I
Yeah.
don't see anything wrong with that word.
That's, Sarah doesn't like
You know,
Support.
It's kind of awkward grammar.
No, it's okay, but I'm just having an issue now. I see that, the city, and then sometimes we address ourselves in these goals and sometimes we don't, so just a consistency.
Mhm.
The goal number 3 says Nashua,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
4 and 5
It's
say
gotta
the
be
city of
city.
Nashua.
Yeah.
So just trying to be consistent, and the number 2 doesn't say
Say
anything.
anything.
Because it doesn't, do we really need to?
Are you gonna rewrite these?
I will just consistent.
There you go.
Sounds
Yeah,
like a
I can
task
fix
that we could give to
consistency
Tim.
for that, yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah,
he's not
right.
here.
He's
No,
not here.
we communicated. I can be more consistent, I can fix consistency
Good.
there, yeah.
would it,
What else could it be?
well, it could be support efforts, support,
As long as we get away from the fact that we can't drive it to be that, we can provide things that would strive to allow it to become.
well, and again, I think this is where we're supporting or providing, but this is I think again, one of
Enabling.
those things where it's the city and community organizations. So we'll support the city and community, the collaboration of city and community organizations to promote Nashua as a regional center. I'm feeling like we really need to have community organizations in here.
I think community organizations are part of all these.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I don't think, so these are the goals of the city. I don't
let's
think we
not
should
thrust
just
it
put it
down
in
on-
here. But I agree with you what you're trying to say. something bigger. You know, I mean, our health and safety is something bigger than just us,
Right.
right? There's so
Mhm.
many
Right.
organizations that help make that
Right.
happen.
And then do we go back to number 1 then? Shall promote clear communication with residents, businesses, and community organizations.
No, because they're
Just-
either
okay.
residents or businesses,
Okay.
probably, right?
Right.
Pull it up.
So, 7, is that?
Okay, so
wait,
what,
wait,
we didn't do
Oh.
6.
I don't
We
think we
didn't
fixed
settle
it.
on 6 yet. What do you think, Kim?
I would we'll provide.
Provide a regional center for arts, culture,
Well,
and
provide the
Framework or structure or
the structure
resources.
or provide the things
Support?
that would help to make it
Yeah, the
a
resources,
regional. yeah.
the,
You know, like allowing the Performing Arts Center to be developed, reinvigorating Court Street, you know, helping
So
the
we'll-
downtown
so we will
improvement.
invest
Sculpture
in,
symposium.
in the arts and culture.
Making sure we don't lose, the head of the downtown.
No, that's some money.
Nobody has
Yeah,
that much.
what are you
interest.
saying invest for? I know, right?
That's okay.
The city of Nashua will become a regional center for arts, culture, and recreation.
Become,
No,
again,
not strong enough,
enforcing.
right?
We can provide the things that would allow it.
Well, we could go back to the framework.
Provide a fertile environment.
Too sensual. Will,
I think we should keep it simple, just say promote, city will promote, its downtown
Arts,
or.
culture, and
Or
recreation.
promote,
Maybe it's the regional
Yeah, maybe it's
center
the regional
that's
center.
getting us hung up.
yeah, that's a good point. So the city of Nashua will promote
We have no-
its
That's the
arts,
simplest-
culture, and recreation.
Yeah,
That's kind of-
will promote arts, culture, and recreation.
Somehow we want to provide the environment to attract people to Nashua as a center for the arts somehow.
Yeah. I think the simpler, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and part of it, Rick, becomes managing resources. You know, if you're looking at like our
Yeah.
parks and waterways as resources, that ties, 5 and 6 could in reality
River
tie.
improvement project.
Riverfront, it's coming.
Riverfront,
Yeah.
yes.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Okay, number 7, the city of Nashua shall ensure that downtown Nashua is a safe, clean, attractive, and accessible urban center.
Does that combine some of the others?
It should be, the downtown is, okay, I see. The downtown is a safe,
Well,
attractive, and accessible.
we had this, we have had this discussion since the beginning of this committee. Do we say, well, each of these is already under a goal, or, and assume that the downtown will be focused on, or do we have a standalone goal that specifically focuses on downtown?
Right.
And
because-
I think that's what's been going on, and Matt's nodding, I mean, I
I
think
agree.
since the beginning, we've gone back and forth on this.
Right, and I was always I'm happy to see that the downtown is a center, and I think there's some value to that. And for the longest time, I thought, why do those people get such preferential treatment?
Yeah,
What
I
about
agree.
all the
And
others?
it shouldn't be just a focus on downtown. It should be that,
But the downtown is the heart of it, you know what I
It
mean?
is,
You
it
need
is.
that. If
You
without
do.
the downtown, it would just be all these other things that are there
Yeah.
without the heart and soul of the city.
You have to have an identity, community identity, yeah.
yeah, but
I
you
agree.
can't just focus on downtown.
No,
But
I
that's
agree.
not-
You
right.
gotta
But
be
that's-
able to-
But I
But all
think
the others,
go to that.
all the others focus on everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
This one
Anybody
says,
that's ever
we're gonna
studied
focus on
urban
down.
studies knows that the center of activity in any town, city, metropolitan area is a central downtown, if you will.
I think, Matt, you and I have talked about this, we've all talked about this, I think it's that balancing of, if you don't have a lot of residents downtown, it's very easy to not put resources downtown because all of your residents in the outer areas want resources directed towards them. So it's kind of balancing all of those needs, but understanding that your downtown is your identity. I think we, as a board of aldermen, and many of the groups in the city we collaborate with, feel like we need to promote Nashua as a destination, and so I think that's how we ended up with this as being a standalone goal, to make sure that there were some resources directed towards downtown. And I think what we saw happening with the parking fees, like, okay, we're gonna dedicate it towards downtown. I think that was an offshoot of what happened before, like, we need to have some money for downtown. So, I'm comfortable with this. And I don't know if we wanna leave it, change wording, what the
I
thought
like it the
is.
way, I think it's fine the way it is. Yeah.
I
Again,
like it. I just didn't wanna leave out like exit 1, the flat leaves and all
Yeah.
of that. I didn't wanna leave that out. I definitely agree that downtown should be,
Yeah,
What
we
if
should
we-
make it our
Mm.
identity as a city.
But I
And-
think, yeah, those guys take care of themselves though, don't they? The Pheasant Lane Mall, Simon and Flatley and all those guys, they got it figured out.
They-
And I think that in town, there's more of a, there are more individuals, and it takes a city to hold it all together.
yeah.
What
I
if we
think,
took out the word downtown
What's that?
and just leave urban center?
I think it
don't-
has a totally different flavor to it.
I think we just say downtown. I don't see why you can't have
Yeah.
downtown. It's a history, it's Nashua's history. So it's, it's, a lot of people have memories of downtown being different than what it was, so it's part of, it's part of them.
The other thing that I have a little problem with is the word ensure. That sounds like we're guaranteeing.
Right.
I think we can take steps to facilitate that, but I'm not sure that we can ensure that it's gonna
We
happen.
can promote, we've used that word a bunch of times.
We can't promote.
I like ensuring. I like
Been a
strong.
familiar theme
Yeah.
with you tonight. You don't want to commit to anything here, do you? Okay, I get it.
Every time I hear the word ensure, I see the budget committee getting a whack with some. We said we were gonna ensure it, we can't do it if we don't spend $2 million. From where?
So do you wanna change it, do you wanna keep it?
It's another word.
Promote a downtown that, Nashua,
Let's
that
go
is
back to
safe.
promote instead of
That's,
ensure.
I have no problem with that.
Promote says we're gonna do everything we can
Yeah.
to make it happen.
Yeah.
Ensure says that we're gonna guarantee it happens, and
Nothing in life is guaranteed, right?
except taxes.
Even downtown.
Except taxes, that's right.
And,
And,
I don't know, I guess I'm not, I see us promoting the arts and recreation. That to me has kind of a marketing, like we're promoting that, but promoting downtown as being safe, clean, attractive, and accessible.
Sounds like the marketing department, not a.
Yeah.
well,
Shall
this is
provide.
the upper level. The lower level things will get into the ensure.
But I want to make sure that we give them wording that will drive their
Mhm.
thought
Yep.
the way we want it to go. Because
There's the word.
promote, someone might say, okay, we're promoting downtown is just signage
So
or marketing,
if I were the
advertising.
BPW and I came into my budget, I'd say, you said ensure. We can't ensure it unless we do this, and this.
That's, this
And-
year, our
And
priority.
then we're gonna say no, and what's that do to the goal? Out the window.
Oh, no, it does,
No.
it's just, it's not about the single year over year, it's about the long term.
That's
Right.
why I'm trying to say, if you use promote, then we can budget it out in other years if we have to.
How about maintain a downtown?
Yeah, I maintain works for me.
Shall maintain a downtown that is safe, clean, attractive, and accessible.
As long as we feel comfortable that it's currently,
Yeah.
I like maintain.
maintains good.
I think it sounds like we pick up the trash.
It's a good point.
Unlike parks.
Right, yeah.
I hope we
That's
do.
easy.
You'd think, it isn't always
Get a
very
new
easy.
sweeper and all- Oh, yeah, yeah.
But I think all the objectives underneath it, we're doing.
Yep.
We're currently,
Yeah, we gotta give them some layups here, right?
Sometimes it's harder to keep doing things well
Right.
than it is to start new
Right.
things, right?
Right, I mean, I think we all know of, okay, those one time we're gonna do this, but then to work that into your annual cycle or semi-annual cycle of updating it, or, okay, this was meeting our need 2 years ago, does this still meet our need? No, it doesn't, we need to up what we're doing or not invest as many resources. And I think that gets back to where are we, where do we wanna be, what do we really need? And I think one night we had a conversation about how all of this really requires people to semi-annually, at a minimum, review what they're doing and how, what the response is for where they're putting their investments towards goals. And as the needs of the city change, and we've all certainly seen that in 10 years. And, you know, and certainly with all of the housing coming in downtown, what's that going to do in terms of our needs downtown, as well as across the city? And, you know, I see some of this, like, I'm thinking of some of the things we talk about at NRPC. I mean, some of these things are gonna be the city reaching out to those other partners and, you know, looking at the 10-year traffic plan and working with them on the household hazardous waste and all those things that we do as we're becoming more of a regional hub also for things that are happening through NRPC.
So I can clean these up
Great.
and get them back to Sue.
Sounds good.
to
Yep.
Get to you. And then, do you want to see them all cleaned up, talk about it?
Yeah, and then
And
we'll
then send
schedule
some kind of
another
a cover
meeting
to
and-
go to the full board?
Do we want, what if we have Sarah clean them up, get them back to us, give everyone like a week to review them? If we don't hear anything, if I don't hear anything about a need to get together to discuss, we'll send it to the full board?
Yeah, I'd
Where-
say provide comments back and
Well, I don't think we should be
if they're
providing.
minor things, we don't need to get together.
Right.
If-
Okay, but if it's a discussion, then we need to meet, because we shouldn't be doing that via email. And then if it goes to the full board, my thought is that it's gonna get referred to PEDC. We'll talk about it there, and then it will come back to the full board. And probably also in that process, there'll be something set up for citizen input. I'm thinking citizen input PEDC meeting, roll it up, send it back to the full board.
sure, that sounds good.
Does that,
Yeah, sounds good.
okay. So, and Sarah and I were talking about just one evening for citizen input, talk to the Telegraph, get some press out there about this is what we're doing.
Maybe before PDC or something.
Yeah.
So how does this fit into your master plan redo, which we're
Well-
hoping is budgeted this year?
Yeah.
I will not talk about the budgeting piece of it yet, because that's not my decision, but all of these things fit into the master plan, all of these goals, and what it does is it helps provide a backbone
Yeah.
for us to start from. Because if this is the direction that the board wants, and that the board's clearly stated, you've given us these goals, and I think one of the most challenging things about master planning is not having, the reason why they tend to sit on shelves is because there's no backbone to start from, right? And if you, and Nashua does it a little bit differently and a little bit better, I think, but if you just go from a planning land use side, it doesn't get you all the other larger pieces in that larger context to focus within. So this will be helpful in getting that going.
Good.
Yeah,
Yes.
Good.
yeah, so. All right, do you have any other questions?
I don't at the moment.
Anyone have any other thoughts, comments for Sarah?
Am I'm not included.
There's a public comment time coming up, and you,
Comments.
yeah, sure. So, public comment. Just, and all I need you to do is, I need you
Say
to
the
state
agenda
your
was-
name and address for the record.
Have her sit down.
And, yeah, if you want to sit over here,
Bring a
there's
mic
a
closer.
mic.
My name is Elizabeth Liu. I'm 17 Roby Street. And I just wanted to offer a couple thoughts I had as you went through this. So I have a few things I wanted to mention. In Goal 1, I just thought maybe you're looking for increased civic engagement. I don't know if that's the wording that you might want to go with. I think it's really important to consider mentioning a way to reach citizens who don't use the internet. I think really the biggest thing here in the discussion that hit me is I don't see a lot of wording about we want to either solicit or engage or get the needs from the individuals. Like, we talk about addressing the individuals, but we don't talk about a commitment to finding out what their needs are. And I don't know, it just seems worth mentioning. And I thought your idea about the clean and the sustainability is really important. I would love to see us state, or there to be something in here about we believe that we're stewards of these hundreds of acres or whatever it is, miles. And I wondered for Goal 3, where it talks about the quality of lifelong education, whether the library is included in there. But I don't know. I mean, no, I realize that's an objective. So in Goal 4, you talk a lot about promoting community. Let's just say, let me go to Goal 6, and I don't understand why a goal of the city has to be to promote, to purposely promote arts, culture, and recreation. I mean, it does seem like something that makes human life, if we have a good city, that's going to be part of what the community will be involved in if we can make a good city. But I think over in Goal 4, there's an objective that talks about the coordination of the city departments and the community agencies. And I just think over there in Goal 4, you could really achieve the same thing by saying that we will promote whatever the community, any community initiated efforts at, anything, arts, cultural, recreational, but to put it more on, we will promote what this citizenry is, whatever. I just don't understand why, I don't know. I know it's a big deal. People usually do want the arts, culture, and recreation to be overtly supported, but I just think that sometimes it's more important to find out what the needs and interests are, to have a really stated process for finding out what everyone wants. Maybe that's always what they want, I don't know. But I'm not sure there's enough outreach to all the citizens, like the marginalized, and I think that should be addressed. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any comments from members of the committee? Luke? No? Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at
8 after